video, we're going to take a look at how to create tests and quizzes in Notable. First, start in the Assignment tab of your course. Click Add and choose Test or Quiz. Here at the top, you can name your test or quiz, put it in a category, and choose your grade display option. You can select a time limit if you'd like. You do not have to have a time limit. You can also put a description just as you would any other assignment. Here, you can choose your question order. Normal means that the question order is the order in which you put the questions when you create the test or quiz. Random means the computer is going to randomize or move those questions around for each student. Answer order is similar as well. If you have multiple choice or multiple select questions, you can choose your answer order to be random, and it will display the options A, B, C, and D in different orders for different students. Answer visibility. This is when you want the students to be able to see the correct answers. You have the option for after specified date, and that date is below in date visible. You can choose after the due date. So after the due date of the test or quiz, all of the students can go in and see the answers. The other option is after submission. That means after submission for any of the computer-generated answers, they can go ahead and take a look at those. I'm going to do specified date for the example, and I'm going to make my answer visibility on the 22nd of January. Here, I will choose submission options. I can put one question per page. That means question 1 will show. The student will have to click next to proceed to question 2. If you do not check it, all of the questions will be on the same page. You can choose to require an access code. That means students will need the code in order to start the test or quiz. Down here, for questions, this is the default. You do not have to start with any default type. This is just something to get you started in your test or quiz. Feel free to leave it blank. You can hit create when you're ready to proceed into adding the questions. Once you create a test or a quiz, it will automatically load that test or a quiz in your window, and you can go ahead and create your questions and set more options. So here we notice that test quiz is not published. That's correct. You're not going to publish the test or a quiz until after you create the questions. But here you can already set the available date and the due date. Available date, just like any other assignment, is the day that the students can see it. And the due date, that's the day that it's due. So let's go ahead and add some questions here. So I'm going to add my first question, and the type is going to be multiple choice. I can set how many points I want this to be worth, and I'm going to go ahead and type my question in here. And I can put my answer choices as well. So I could put You can put as many multiple choice answer options as you wish, and you can also select the correct answer by choosing the dot there. This anchor answer is important because if you have something like all of the above, you'll want to anchor the answer so it stays on the bottom. This is an option for me since I have chosen to have my answer options in random order based on how I set up this test or quiz. You can then create another question by choosing the Add Question link below. Another type of question you might want to do is multiple select. Again, you enter the amount of points and put the question text here. Once you enter your question text, you can go ahead and enter the answer choices in the same way in which you entered them for multiple choice. Once you enter your answer choices, you select the correct answers here, and then you can go ahead and add another question if you have another one to include. Another option would be a free response. In a similar way, you put the question text here. And something else you can do is you can also attach files to be part of your question text. So I can go ahead and attach a photo or any other kind of a file for my students to see when they see the question text. You will manually have to grade for your responses, but you can still put the correct answer here in the box. If you don't have a correct answer, you can always put varies as a placeholder. We're going to go ahead and add another question. And this question type, we will choose true and false. And you can put your points again and put your question text. After you put your question text there, choose the correct answer as true or false. Again, you can always attach a file to any of the questions. We're going to go ahead and add one more question type. And this one will be file upload. Students can actually upload a file as their submission to a question. I'm going to give this one 5 points as well and enter the question here. Once you have your question, you don't need to do anything else for this because students will just attach a file that they're uploading to this. Once you enter the question text here, you don't have to do anything for the correct answer because it will just be based on whatever file the student has attached. Those are all the different question types, and once you're done filling out all of your questions, you scroll back up at the top. You can go ahead and click Publish Test/Quiz. This warning message will come up because it wants you to know that you can only edit questions when the assessment is unpublished, so you would have to unpublish it to add questions. And once a student submits, you won't be able to edit the questions or the available date anymore because it does have a submission. So I'm going to hit publish. And see right now, since no one has submitted yet, I could quickly unpublish and make changes. But once one of my students submit, I'm no longer able to do that. Before we take a look at some of the student responses, I just want to do my favorite little trick in Notebowl, which is go to More and do View As. So we are going to see what it looks like when a student decides to take this test. We see here in the assignments, I've opened up test 2, and when they're ready, they will choose to start the assessment. There's information about the test up here at the top. It has my start date. That's the time I first started taking it, my status, how many points are available, time remaining. It just has a large number there. That just really is a countdown until the due date. Since this is not a timed quiz, we don't really have to worry about that, but it is due on that day, and that's what the time is reflecting. But students will go through, select answers for each of the questions, and click Next to proceed. Please note that I can't actually click on them while I'm in the View As mode, so there are some limitations to that. Next, I'm going to have some of my students go ahead and take this test, and we'll take a look at what it looks like once the students respond. Okay, so I just snapped my fingers, and now I have some student submissions for us to look at. In the test or quiz, you start in this questions area, and this is where you originally created the questions. Once you're ready to view the results of your students, you have two options. You can choose results by students or results by question. Before I proceed, I'm actually going to go ahead and edit the due date right now since I don't want anyone else taking it because I'm going to be doing the grading. So let me change that. So now my students will no longer be able to take this because it will be past the due date. I can publish grades. I can start with grades published, and then as I finish grading, bam, the students will see those grades. I don't have to do it that way, though. I can publish them all at once at the end, which is my preferred method. So here, let's take a look first at the results by student. When I do results by student, I can go ahead and click on a particular student, and I can scroll through and see all of their responses. Up here, I can also use the option to reopen, but I can only do that if the due date hasn't passed. So since I set the due date to already have passed, if I wanted to reopen it for any of my students, I would need to turn the due date later and go ahead and click reopen here. I can also use these additional options to hide student names or view student activity. This will tell me when the students have done different things in the test or quiz. One thing you'll notice here, these blur and focus. Blur means that they have opened a different tab or moved away from the test or quiz, and focus means that they've come back to the test or quiz. This is a newer feature in Notebowl courses as of spring 2021. But we can also see all of the different things that this student has done while they took the test or quiz. Another view option would be to view results by question. And you can go in here and see the different questions and see the overall status and average grade for those questions. If you have any free response, it's usually easier to go ahead and grade those in the results by question area, because then you can go through all of the answers for each question. So I know question 3, that was a free response, and I can just open that up right here, and I can go ahead and see what the students have put. I can give them a grade. So I can give a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5, depending on what their answers are. Cheryl did not answer, so she is getting a 0 for that one. And neither did Ima. But you can just scroll right down and go ahead and give each of the students based on their responses. Another thing you can do, and you can do this in either results by student or by question, is you can also add comments and feedback on each of the questions. So if you're going through and you notice that another thing you can do, and you can do this in results by student or results by question, is you can give feedback to particular questions if you wish. So here, there's a photo. I could give him credit there, and I can also add a comment on it and say something like that and hit save, and now he has feedback on that particular question that he would be able to see. And I can do that for any of the answers to any of the questions in the quiz. I can comment and give feedback as I wish. I'm going to return to all submissions. And I have graded all of them. So the computer has automatically graded some, and then I graded the 2 remaining that needed manual grading. I can take a look. Again, I can just cruise through the different questions and see the different results. I can go back to all submissions, and I could choose results by student if I wanted to see what a particular student got for that. Again, I can also reopen as long as the due date hasn't passed. Once you finish grading, you'll want to make sure you publish those grades to students whenever you're ready. So I'm going to hit publish there, and now students will be able to go ahead and see their grades for this test or quiz, and they'll also see their answers based on when I allow them to see it. And if you remember back to the beginning of the video, that was in the original details, and I can revisit that by clicking the pencil there. And I can see here that I've specified the answer visibility after a certain date. Here I'm going to change it to after due date because I've already finished that, and I can hit save. So now my students will be able to see their answers. I also want to point out that this test, the grades will also appear in the grades tab in Notebowl, and it will be in the category that I have assigned it, which was assignments, not tests. You can also move it over to the other category in those details if you would like to move it. In the next video, I will go over how to subassign tests, quizzes, and assignments, and how you can use that for accommodation purposes in your classes.